On today's show, the Han Solo movie gets some executive producers. Superfly is back, and Spider-Man hears from Tony Stark. Hey kid, get your glove. You're going in the ballgame. Movie Talk starts right now. Avengers TV spots over the weekend.
Loved them.
How'd you watch them? College basketball. Anybody else?
No. Kids' Choice Awards.
Nope.
Kids' Choice Awards.
Rocha doing what we expect him to do, watching the Kids' Choice Awards. Welcome to Collider Movie Talk. Hope you guys had a great weekend. That is John Rocha, Clarke Wolfe, Jon Schnepp. I am merely Mark Ellis. We have a whole lot of news stories to get to today. Our top story is involving Solo, a Star Wars story, and the executive producers of the film, Lord and Miller. Yes, if those names sound familiar, they were the original directors of the film before they were unceremoniously released by Lucasfilm and replaced with Ron Howard. They were at an animation conference this past weekend and mentioned that, yes, they actually are going to get executive producer credit. The quote is, "We are very proud of our many contributions that we made to that film. In light of creative differences, we elected to take an executive producer credit." The duo added that they wish everyone the best on the movie. John Rocha, executive producer. That means you had something to do with the movie circumstantially. Is that correct?
It's like when you see Spielberg executive producing 30 films in a year. It's like, no way you have enough time to cover 30 films. But I think this is a smart move for them. And it also indicates that Ron Howard did way more directing on this film than people initially thought when he first came on. Because, remember the first reports were, 90% film's 90% done. Ron's just coming in to kind of shave the edges down and make things work a little bit better, blah, blah, blah. So, and clearly there were extensive reshoots. No matter what the other actors say, it seems it's very clear this way. And I also think it's a smart move for Lord and Miller. Look, whatever's going to be on the screen, we don't want credit for it because we didn't direct the whole thing and put it all together. And so Ron can take credit for that, but we want to make whatever money this thing is going to make as executive producers. I'm not sure what their deal is. So to me, this is a smart move for them. And then it just wraps this whole thing up and they can move on from it and go to the next film or whatever they're going to do next, because they have a lot of credibility already as directors in numerous other projects. So for me, this isn't an issue. This wraps it all up and we can all move on.
I'm not sure what the deal is, but I imagine this is much more of a face-saving gesture than it is like we're going to be making our retirement off of this movie, because this, again, these comments come from the GLAS Animation Conference. And Clarke, I was interested to see what their quotes were about their entire career and how that might factor into the Han Solo story, because they were talking about Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and how when they started working on that, they didn't really understand animation culture and that they had to learn not only how a studio works, the inner workings of that, but also that a feature animated film is a lot more about relationships than they ever expected to do. So if you come from the animation world where you figure everything has to be set in stone before you initially start animating it, why are we hearing all of these things coming out of the set where these guys who also did the Lego movie just couldn't get it right and have a concise number of takes?
Yeah, I don't know. This whole story is a mystery to me, because at the end of the day, Lord and Miller are known for what they're known for. They're known for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They're known for Lego Movie, and they're known for 21 and 22 Jump Street. So I don't understand why Lucasfilm hired them if they didn't, and they're also known for Last Man on Earth, right? The TV show with Will Forte, which I love. So, I don't know why Lucasfilm hired them if they did not know what came before and the tone that they were going to go for, whatever the pitch was that they made, they loved. And so in terms of this whole situation is such a mystery to me, but it does sound like Ron Howard, did a lot of work is the director of this movie regardless. And maybe whether or not they get executive producer credit because they showed Lucasfilm what they didn't want. And so it's all right, well, you narrowed that down for us, or to save face, or a combination of both. I was just looking up as you were talking, Rocha, that I was thinking about, Justice League, and Zack Snyder is still the credited director on Justice League. Joss Whedon is not a credited producer on Justice League. He is a credited screenwriter, right? Screenplay by Joss Whedon. And so, clearly WB, when they approached a similar situation, or a situation where they changed directors or had to have another director come in before the movie was finished and do some things, they took a different approach. So it's just interesting to see how all of this is kind of playing out.
Yeah, I mean, in the Justice League situation, I think it was a little bit easier for them to just shoehorn in a story by credit or a screenwriting credit for Joss Whedon, because here you have Lawrence Kasdan writing the script, and that's the script that apparently Lord and Miller were not shooting enough of, or they were going off book too much, because there's been reports that have come out since this story saying that, look, Lord and Miller were doing an excessive number of takes on each, to the point where actors were just standing around saying, okay, well, we've done everything that we could possibly do in this scene. Ron Howard is reported to have shot the same script that Lord and Miller were working on. So, Schnepp, my question to you is, if you come from an animation background, aren't you confined in a certain space to say, we have to shoot this because this is what the animation gave us?
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like the reason, in my mind, the reason they were hired is because it's a studio packaging. Like, look, these guys made the Lego movie and they did this. It's less so about like their experience in Star Wars or in action adventure filmmaking. So I think a lot of packages get put together like that, and that's a little older school way of methodology, I think. As far as animation goes, yeah, they got their their shoes on with the Cloudies thing, but then they really got going with Lego, and with doing animation, you might see a million credits at the end of any of these animated films, as well as Star Wars for that case, because it's tons of animation as well, but a different kind. Lord and Miller being the directors, there's a guy named Chris McKay who actually kind of really directed the film. He's the animation director of a Lego movie, but you saw him direct the Batman movie. It's because of that. It's like he'd been directing, Robot Chicken and all these other things. So it's like there's so many different tiers of who really is directing and making things in the animated sphere that when you come to live action, Lord and Miller were really great at 21 Jump Street, which was a lot of improv, a lot of comedy, a lot of throw the script in the garbage. So that's not what Star Wars was. So I think they were using their same methodology. It didn't work.
But there are certain scenes in the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies, like you and Clarke were having this conversation before we went to air, is that there's action sequences in them. Right. It's pretty intense action. You can't really improvise too much on those. So how were they able to pull those scenes off?
Called amazing second unit directors. They probably weren't even on set, is my guess. I mean, look, it's like, talk to the Russo brothers. When they directed Civil War, they called in the directors of John Wick to help get that airport sequence set up and shoot as second unit directors. And I mean, that's the coolest thing when you're making films on a bigger budget. You bring in other talented people to help you make an amazing film. And that's what it's about. And probably with Star Wars, they were just rolling, and they were like, they had their own take on that script, and we're going to go with this take. And they started butting heads with everyone else. Even though, I think they got like 75, 80% of the shoot done. It might have, like, everyone was pretty upset, like 25% of the way through, especially with the things that I've heard too, like people, not making decisions fast enough, or both of them making different decisions because they weren't on the same page. So that kind of thing adds up where you're like 20, 30, 40 days into a shoot, and maybe you're a little bit behind or not on schedule as to where the people wanted it to be.
But this also feels like a breakup, Mark. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear, like, you're on both sides of this. Like, well, they did this. Well, then he did this, or she did this, or they did this. And you're just like, I don't know who to believe. Because, like, we're hearing reports now this morning, off air before we came on, this unnamed actor said this kind of stuff. And that's the kind of crap you hear. Oh, well, I'm hearing from his friend that he this. And so it's just like, at some point, we just want all this, because this can't be good. Because even Kathleen Kennedy came out and said it was creative differences in their direction, and they were improvising too much. And you can't do that with Star Wars. Right. All of a sudden, she's a standard torchbearer for the Star Wars canon and how it should be approached film. So to me, all of this speaks to a very uneasy leadership overall through this process. And so I don't know what the end result is, but all I want is a good movie. And if a good movie comes out of all this madness, great. But this can't be good. I
mean, short term, I think we're going to get a good movie. And long term, more to your point, that the executive producer credit is just kind of like saying, hey, let's still be friends. Like, I don't know that they're going to be calling and texting each other and hanging out all the time, but they're going to be friends because they were in a very intense relationship for a short period of time. Going forward, Clarke, how does Lucasfilm look at this decision that they made? Because to me, it seems like they wanted comedy, guys, because they wanted something to lighten the mood from what they were going to get with the trilogy, right? With the Skywalker trilogy, you want something different, want something off book. it's a lot like when somebody hires a comedian to perform at a birthday party because they assume, oh, you're funny, you can make anything work. No, it's got to be a conducive environment to stand-up comedy. It can't just be a birthday party for some 13-year-old kid at a Korean barbecue restaurant, which I've actually done before, and it does not work. So I think they just hired somebody like, you can make funny stuff happen, right? And then they realized too late, you're not playing in the sandbox the way we need you to. So do you think Lucasfilm plays it safe going forward for a while with the type of director they hire? We saw Benioff and Weiss going to be doing their trilogy. Rian Johnson has a trilogy. Those are two directors that aren't exactly known for their senses of humor.
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain that at the end of the day, I would like to see a Han Solo movie made by Lord and Miller. I still want to see that movie. Whether it didn't work or not, that to me is exciting. That's something interesting that Lucasfilm could do. And I think you have the ability, if I were in charge, I would say, okay, our side movies, our side stories, that's where we can have a little bit of fun. That's where we can sort of loosen the reins a little bit. I understand if you want the linear trilogies to be like a certain kind of way. I totally get that. But I feel like, if you're gonna do a prequel about Han Solo and an adventure and a scoundrel and all of that stuff, then have a little fun with it. And I do think that they could have been the right guys for the job. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to it. I don't know. Not only am I not a director, but I don't know them. But what I would say is sometimes people's processes are not necessarily the way that you would want them to be if you're a studio executive. But if you trust the finished product, if you trust the fact that these guys oversaw whether or not they fully directed the sequences or not, if they oversaw the two animated family films that were successful, if they oversaw 21 and 22 Jump Street, which I love both of those movies, and across the board, all of them are financial and critical successes. So it's like, do you trust these guys to give it a try? And clearly, they got cold feet halfway through. And whether or not Lord and Miller knew what they were doing or not, like Lucasfilm, it's like you get what you pay for, essentially. Like you dance with the one who brought you, to use your breakup metaphor. So I don't know. I want them to start taking risks. I want Lucasfilm to have a little bit more fun. Now that Guillermo has, won an Oscar for Shape of Water, in my perfect world, let him make his weird Jabba the Hutt Godfather movie.
Yes.
Like, fine. Yeah. But it's a side quel. You know what I mean? It's a side movie. But the thing is, Lucasfilm, you have to loosen the reins. It's like Guillermo del Toro is who he is. He makes movies the way he wants, tonally the way he wants. Within your Star Wars universe, you have to let him go. And I think it's the same with them. But
I want to see a David Lynch Salacious Crumb movie, but I personally think if you look at not just Lucasfilm's history, but like a lot of the recent history where directors are hired to make movies and then they're fired either before they get to even make the movie, or fired halfway through the movie, or replaced halfway through the movie through DC, Warner Brothers, Just Leagues. I mean, that kind of thing is happening a lot, and it's because of their $100, $200, $300 million films. They're not like lower budget, like, hey, I see your vision and I raise you 50, go make it. Yeah. Here's $50 million. That's what I'd like to see happen. I agree. I want to see the Jabba the Hutt Guillermo movie, but is he going to have to make a 2-scale barge where it's like, I must rebuild? It's a $300 million film, and so I mean, I think that's where it comes down, is like, Lord and Miller were hired to do what they've been doing, but then while they were on set working with everybody, it didn't work out, and so I don't know if they'll be at the premiere.
I think they ran into a script that was written by Lawrence Kasdan and his son that he was really passionate about writing, and he's loved the Han Solo character for a long time. He writes so well for that particular character and for that storyline. So I think that was the big issue, is that you hire Lord and Miller to go do a Han Solo movie, but if they're not directing the script that everybody at Lucasfilm was in love with, that becomes the issue. Whereas otherwise, if it wasn't this golden magical script, then let them go off and make the movie Clarke wanted to see.
I wonder why Jake Kasdan didn't get to direct this movie.
He said he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
He said the interviews, like with the Jumanji thing, he said, I don't want to take that pressure on to directing a Star Wars film.
Well, if there's
I bet that's a little bit of a subtle shade, Clarke, in my opinion, because I think he sees this regime. He's like, I'm good. I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna wait till this changes over,
exactly,
and then maybe I'll slide in and do a Star Wars film. But I think you're right. I think they had every intention to make these Star Wars story films different. They had every intention, but like John was alluding to, this is a big company, big corporation, board of directors, all these people get involved, and the mouse don't play. The mouse does not play. When you're messing with the mouse, they will knock you out because they make that money, and that's how they can buy 20th Century Fox or whatever, because they make that money. So I think they were like, oh, that's a good idea, but we don't like it because Rogue One was going to be way darker than anybody thinks, and they went in and smoothed.
They reshot all that?
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about people just like, yeah, why don't you sit on the sidelines? We got a new person coming
and that's
in.
what I mean. And so to me, it bothers me a lot because it sets a pattern that we want innovative directors, but we only want them this way. And look, Ryan is the one that came in and made all these changes and split the fandom in two, like Holdo did with that ship. So it's crazy. You do want the changes, but then the fan base rebels against the changes. So you're really in a between a rock and a hard place.
Are you talking people still crying about Last Jedi?
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Read the message.
Go eat a porg.
Every story.
Eat a porg.
Please do not eat porgs, although they are delicious and edible. If you don't know who Jake Kasdan is, he's not only Lawrence Kasdan's kids, but he directed one of the most underrated comedies of the 2000s, Orange County.
Oh.
Check it out. Very, very funny movie starring Colin Hanks and Jack Black. We move on to 2 Infinity War spots that debuted this past weekend. I saw them a lot while watching college basketball. Sorry about Florida State, Rocha. Spider-Man is the headliner because he gets knighted by Tony Stark in one of them. It's a great scene where Stark officially knights him as an Avenger. It seems to be that they're about to go into battle, and we don't have a lot of time to do this ceremony, so here you go, kid. You're an Avenger. Good luck with everything. This is what I want to get into today, Jon Schnepp, is there's going to be so many of these cool moments in Infinity War where, yes, there's this overall scope of we have a bunch of heroes and they're going to be fighting one huge baddie in Thanos and his army, right?
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, there's going to be a lot of neat little interactions where, oh, that character's talking to this character. Like, personally, the best scene that I've seen from Infinity War is when Doctor Strange is doing that, like, mystical whirly thing he does, and then Iron Man flies through it. Mm-hmm. So if you have that character action, or maybe it is Spider-Man becoming an Avenger, what character interactions are you hoping to see in this movie?
Well, I mean, from all the trailers, I mean, we're getting that feeling. It's very similar. We were talking about Star Wars, how they have like 3 different storylines, and you're cutting back and forth between these 3 different, situations that are all like, focused together. I think Thor and the Guardians for me is what I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing the interactions of Thor and whatever's left of the people from Asgard, and maybe nobody but Thor and the Guardians, and just seeing that, like, you get a flavor that he's going to be getting his hammer back. He's hanging with Rocket Raccoon and Groot. So that's kind of, for me, I'm the most interested because, sorry, I've seen all the trailers now. I know there's Wakanda, Hulkbuster. Kind of, I can guess at what's going to happen with it. It's Captain America holding on Thanos' pinky and screaming. It's like I'm guessing what's going to happen, but I don't know anything really about the Thor Guardians plot line. So that, to me, is still the most exciting.
Yeah, I'm also really excited to see the Wakanda buddies, or I guess the Vibranium buddies that would be Black Panther sharing the Wakanda technology, possibly with Bucky or with Cap. Now, I still think Bucky should just be put to sleep and not utilized. I think that he's too dangerous. He's too big of a risk. He's running towards Thanos. He hears 9 words in Russian, and then all of a sudden he's fighting us again.
Sandwich cart, bus load, freeloader. I don't know. I can't remember the words.
Could be. He could still be triggered, in my humble opinion.
Post-credits tease.
Yeah.
But with Cap, I think that he probably is going to have an improved shield. He's probably going to have improved armor. He might not make it out of this movie, but I think he's got a better shot because Wakanda is sharing some of their technology. I'm excited to see that too.
Yes, and for me, I would echo John's sentiments. Like, I'm very much on board with watching the Guardians interact because I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, and yes, I can name all 5 of them, Schmodown fans. But I will say that I didn't. One thing, I wasn't as in love with Volume 2 as I wanted to be, and so I'm actually very excited to watch the gang interact with different outside of their world. You know what I mean? And with different types of characters, and interact in a legacy that's been going on for a while. And it's like they're kind of thrust into that. Like, I think that could be really cool. I like the little shticky Peter Quill stuff that we've been seeing in the trailer. I think it's funny, and Rocket is like my favorite. So I'm really excited to see the Guardians thrust into all of this.
Yeah, and I like seeing teenage Groot, like rebellious, kind of crappy attitude Groot towards his parents. That's going to be really fun to watch.
Stink Eye Groot.
Stink Eye Groot, Rocha, you have nothing but pleasant eyes, and you're very nice to everybody here in the studio.
Yes. You're not my dad, Star-Lord. No, I like this idea of what I'm seeing from this Spider-Man spot, and what I've been seeing with the trailers. What I'm starting to get this weird suspicion is, I know everyone's been saying, "Oh, Black Panther's going to lead." I think there's a real possibility they're going to make Spider-Man one of the leaders of whoever's left standing, and do the new Avenger storyline with Spider-Man. Still have Black Panther because he's got to rule a kingdom. He can't be running a team and ruling a kingdom. There's things to be had here, and also Scarlet Witch because of what's going to happen to Vision. So I think that's what is being teased in these. And I wish they'd stop doing this. I know they got to do it marketing, but it's driving me insane because every new piece I see is every new thing I won't get to see in the context and like in the movie for the first
You're
time.
the one that made the choice to watch the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice
I
Awards,
did,
which
The
had another
Rock.
spot we're not even talking about because it might be considered too spoilery.
I can't resist John Cena and drag. What can I tell you, man? You know, and The Rock was there too. So, but look, to me, it was I love these spots. I love the knighting thing. That's so brilliant
very
because
cute.
who else would knight him but the guy who started it all, which is Iron Man in 2008. So it's so perfect, and that's why I think he's knighting him as a leader. He's saying to him, "Join the Avengers," but he's also saying to him, "I'm going to hand this over to you to handle it."
Rocha,
blah,
he's
blah,
in
blah.
high school. He's not going to be leading anything.
Okay.
He's just
When
making.
he
He's
does,
like your
Schnepp,
junior Avenger.
When he does, you owe me a steak dinner.
All right, that's 10 years from now.
You talk about T'Challa's got to run a kingdom in
He's gotta run a
addition to
kingdom.
possibly lead the Avengers. Spider-Man's got homework, man.
That's
he's
true.
got
Homework.
He's got
This-
to graduate high school.
That's something John talked about on Heroes. Like, what's the time jump here? Is he a senior now? Is it 2 years later? That kind of stuff. That's going to come into play, I think, as well. And yes, yeah, he's in high school, but he's a very intelligent guy with all this stuff. So who knows how it'll play out?
Schnepp, I know y'all were talking about this on Heroes a little bit last week. Do we know what's your suspicion on what the time jump is from, I guess, the end of Black Panther or the end of Thor Ragnarok to Infinity Wars?
Well,
kickoff?
I know that a lot of people online have been saying, oh, it's a year, it's 5 years, it's this and that. I think it's like, I don't think they specifically name a date ever. They're like 6 months later, but they're like, look, things have happened. And that's the whole idea is like in between movies, adventures have happened from Avengers to Avengers Age of Ultron. Like they began Age of Ultron, they're already the Avengers. They're attacking some castle. You're like, oh, they're the Avengers. They've been doing this. And I think the same thing with this new one. That's why Scarlet Witch has blonde hair. Like they're all in different situations. Yeah. Possibly at the beginning of the film, you'll see like time has elapsed, but Parker's still going to be. He's in a high school bus, so he's still in high school. So probably a year has passed, and I guess the second Spider-Man movie comes out next year. I guess that's Spider-Man Prom, or is that Spider-Man Graduation? Yeah, because look, I mean, maybe he's going to go to college. Meet
Foreign
some Gwen
exchange.
Stacy and
Spider-Man Spring Break.
Right. That's right, in Belgium. So who knows? But yeah, my guess is probably a year and a half.
I mean, when I see the end of Thor Ragnarok, it's a happy-ish ending, but I also think that might be a very sad, tragic beginning to Infinity War, where Thanos can come in and be like, oh, it's cute that so many people survived Asgard. Boom, one laser beam wipes everybody out. That's why Thor's floating through the universe. He wakes up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. We're off and running on our adventure. One of my buddies, Tyler, told me that one of his most anticipated interactions is possibly seeing Iron Man's Tony Stark talk to Shuri from
Yes.
Wakanda
Ooh, yes.
and have them just have like this meeting of geniuses with
Yes.
technology. That could be really cool to check out. Well, speaking of Black Panther, it made yet another milestone and perhaps the biggest of the bunch thus far. It is officially the highest grossing superhero movie ever domestically. It is now pulled in over $630 million at the box office. That breaks a previous record by the Avengers. That was $623 million. Pacific Rim Uprising was the number one movie of the weekend, both domestically and worldwide. So I think the biggest takeaway is obviously Black Panther. It was number two with $16.6 million. At number three, I can only imagine how that movie is still in the top five after its second weekend, but is making a lot of money. It's now done $38 million total and just $7 million for a budget. Sherlock Gnomes was the other wide release, $10.6 million. I still want to see it. You guys are making fun of this movie left and right. It's got music by Elton and Bernie. I want to go see it. And then Tomb Raider holding on nicely, $10.4 million for an overall domestic haul of $40 million, but it's doing very well internationally. Black Panther, Jon Schnepp? Or Pacific Rim Uprising's international take, which was about $150 million when you combine everything.
Well, I mean, we were all talking about before the show that's the reason they made Pacific Rim 2 is because of China. Because they were like, check out that box office from China. Just get it, make it. Hurry up.
$65 million this weekend in China.
And I haven't seen Pacific Rim Uprising, but I know the Transformers nutball over here didn't like it. So if
didn't like
the
Pacific
guy
Rim
who likes
Uprising?
Transformers
It's a
didn't like
piece
it.
of
You think Transformers movies are
crap.
better than Pacific Rim Uprising?
No. Transformers movies, I enjoy them. They're not good movies or better movies. I just enjoy them. Pacific Rim was horrible, and it exposed Never, I shouldn't say.
Look, so
I'm trying to keep my job.
Look, I was like,
show.
hey, look, I was like, should I just wait for Netflix? Because I'm really not excited to see it. But, I'm gonna just go see Black Panther again, or maybe I Can Only Imagine, which I'm not gonna go see. But you know what? I'm never gonna see Sherlock Gnomes. Anybody here see it?
I want to see them. I like the first one. Romeo and Juliet was really cute.
Right?
You guys are all horrible monsters.
Sure.
Cork, are you going to rescue me and maybe go see Sherlock Gnomes?
If you buy me popcorn.
Ah, geez, man, you guys are driving a hard bargain here.
Well, look, I think there's a lot of information in this box office this weekend, and Schnepp, you touched on it with Pacific Rim, which I haven't seen yet, not because I didn't want to. I love the first Pacific Rim movie, and I've been seeing that the reaction has been very split on Pacific Rim. Like, some people had a blast with it and thought it was just big, dumb, cool fun, and then some people like Rocha hated it. But at the end of the day, money talks, and they knew exactly. I feel like the studio and the team knew exactly what they were doing. They were making a movie for international audiences. They were not making it for this audience, which we've seen a little bit of a pattern of over the last handful of years. Warcraft, for instance, opened really big overseas, right? So that's something going forward that we are all, as people who are interested in the entertainment industry and working in the industry, are going to have to pay attention to. And as for Black Panther, I think it's amazing, and I think, but we talked about it. Like, obviously, this is a cultural phenomenon. It is an entertainment phenomenon, and it's also such great timing in terms of where it lands in the MCU, because we do have a decade of audience participation and getting ready for wanting to see this character. So that's amazing. But I also think too, there's part of me that is not surprised. And we've talked about this on this show before. Like, in this way, on this scope, with this budget and this cast and this story, like, audiences have been wanting something like this for so long. And I'm really glad that Marvel gave it to him. And I've been seeing a lot of think pieces saying, like, oh, Black Panther is Hollywood's big problem. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, basically saying, like, gee whiz, what are we going to do now? And it's like, put more different kinds of people on screen and hire great directors and hire great actors to make stories for audiences that resonate across the board. Like, what's his, Kumail. Kumail made this great point.
Yeah.
Kumail Nanjiani made this great point at the Oscars. Like, I've been looking at somebody who is not me and idealizing them my whole life. And you guys can do it too. Like, it's really okay.
Yeah.
And as a female filmgoer who always identified or loved Marty McFly or loved Indiana Jones, I wasn't looking at all the side characters. Like, it's not that hard. Yeah. And I can look at the people of Wakanda and be like, wow, they're so amazing, just because I happen to be white. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think it's amazing, and I think it's really cool. And, it shouldn't have taken this to get Hollywood to notice, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, the old guard with Hollywood, I think, is learning a couple different things here with this news, Roken, because you can look at the Black Panther news and also the Pacific Rim box office and say, okay, well, first of all, blockbuster movies can come out at any month. It does not matter when you release a movie. If it's good and it's exciting for people, they're going to go see it in droves. With Pacific Rim, that means that the domestic box office, as much as this American pig dog loves to say, oh, well, hey, I want to see what the domestic take is, worldwide box office is now important. And it means that people can make movies that don't just appeal to us here at the States. If they make a movie that's going to be appealing worldwide, then it can break in a huge profit for the studio.
Yeah, I do find it ironic that the Transformers guy is going to go on and say these kinds of things.
I find it very ironic.
The reason that Michael Bay kept doing this is because they were making so much money overseas. And I want Collider to sponsor me to do a year-long documentary where I go overseas and I interview numerous people in numerous countries where I go, are you not looking for story? Is that what the deal is? You just want big explosions and robots and things of that nature, and then do a whole documentary. We realize, yes, that's why Hasselhoff was big in France. We just don't care about these things.
Right.
Germany, sorry. Jerry Lewis in France, sorry.
Right.
Anyway, those kinds of things. We just want to explore those kinds. We don't want story, blah, blah, blah.
Rocha, we'll just shoot a green screen. We'll do it today. Let's do it, man.
It's incredible because some of the greatest foreign films are about these really interesting topics that are very deep dive into emotional complexity, relationship things. But then on the other side, they have this desire to see these big blow up things and not care. And so it's interesting to see that juxtaposition. But I will say this about Black Panther, and this is really interesting. You cannot look at this thing in a vacuum, and I think it's really important. Clarke makes incredible, great points, but also it's really important. I think what she said. This has been coming for a decade. They've laid the groundwork for this to be the success that it was. It does not mean that the next black superhero film is going to make $600 million either. There are a lot of factors involved here. You have to have the right director, the right script, the right actors, and the right interest in the public for it to keep going. People are like, oh yes, now we should all make black superhero films. Sure, but make them good. I don't want to see Meteor Man. I don't want to see Blank Man. I don't want to see crap like that.
Hey, I like Blank Man.
I used to like
Apex
Man.
Give me
David Wayne.
Blade. Give me Black Panther. These are powerful, strong black superheroes.
Storm. Where's our
Give me
Storm
Storm.
movie?
Absolutely. Give me a Shuri movie. I don't care.
yeah.
I want to see those kinds of things. There's so much here to explore on the black side of things with superheroes, and then we're going for all. And eventually, Latinos will get a superhero too, and maybe we'll get a movie at some point. Those kinds of things I want to see. Even a Miles Morales Spider-Man at some point down the road. So what I like about this is that it shows that there is a sea change in the African American. Finally, people are like, oh, that's right. African Americans do go see these films, do go spend money, do go these things. They've been doing this for the last decade. They're becoming a powerful financial force in movie-going public, and studios need to recognize it.
Okay, look, you're a nice guy and you make a lot of great points. Okay, Pacific Rim 2. Why is that not as good as the Transformers movie?
God, because there isn't the legacy that you have for the Transformers movies from the comic books, from the toys, from the TV show. I think that's where Pacific Rim suffers. Like I don't get to
So
fall
there's
back
no
on the
legacy to
legend.
ruin with Pacific Rim, like
sure.
what the Transformers movies do.
Sure, because listen, the story is incredibly stupid, and I think what they do with John Boyega's character bothers me a lot.
Was he drift compatible? That's my big question. Oh wait, they
he
probably
used to be drift
right.
compatible.
Does that even matter?
And then he
There's
left.
only have one movie.
He
They don't
left.
have a legacy.
He's the son of one of a rare black main characters of a sci-fi film. Rarely do black people get a main character in a sci-fi film. Then they make his son a thief and a party boy. And it's like, no, this is a cliche thing that you're doing. Why go down this road? And then Scott Eastwood, ooh, daddy. Anybody's trying to tell me he's Wolverine, you're way out of line. Watch this movie. You're going to be changing your mind real quickly. So just the story is ridiculous. Some of the acting is ridiculous. But the end battle scene, the last 10 minutes, fantastic.
So would you see Jean de Florette, but with robots and explosions?
Nice
Yeah, I'd be like,
Nice.
yeah, man, let's just dig a little deeper, baby.
All right, everybody's really heated. I think that what we should do here is take a field trip to the AMC Burbank 16 and go see Sherlock Gnomes.
Yes.
This is going to be really fun. We're going to see gnomes. They're going to solve
Sherlock
mysteries.
Gnomes.
Oh my
Sherlock,
God.
no.
Just a bunch of mean-spirited old crusty bastards on this show. According to Variety, Michael Showalter, who is the director of Kumail Nanjiani's Hit the Big Sick, and he's also an alum of the great 90s sketch show The State on MTV, is the director for the new comedy starring Octavia Spencer and Jessica Chastain that is going to be centered around two women who link up and have a zany adventure together because they're trying to get home for the holidays in time for Christmas Day. If this movie sounds a little bit like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it is, and we reported on this a number of months ago. It's not going to be called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it is going to be inspired by that style of movie. I'm very excited about this news for a number of different reasons, not the least of which, Clarke, is Michael Showalter, because I think he's a comic genius. I love seeing what he was able to bring as far back as The State, but to a lot of projects since then, most recently with The Big Sick.
Stella,
yeah.
Yeah, I am so on team Michael Showalter. I've been talking about it since it came out, but The Big Sick, I think, was one of the best movies that came out last year. It's funny in so many different ways, and I think one of the things that gets me excited about him not only teaming up with these fabulous actresses, but telling a story like this, I don't think he's going to shy away from, or they're going to shy away from the drama that comes along with the holidays, right? Because yes, we can, the holidays are great, and there's been a million movies made about Santa and about all the fun stuff and and toy shopping and all of that. But at the end of the day, there's also a lot of really tough stuff that comes along with the holidays. And if these two women are stranded and have to team up with each other to get home, for some reason, I have a feeling there's going to be some really emotionally compelling reasons. And I think Showalter, not only with The Big Sick, but to just use that as an example, mined so much laugh out loud comedy from that movie. And that is not to say that Emily V. Gordon and Kumail's script wasn't fabulous, because it was. But also, it was so touching. And Michael Showalter, I think, behind the scenes, really helped push that forward. So I think that this could be really cool, and I'm excited.
Yeah, Rocha, is this the way that we go about rebooting movies in the future? Is that it's less like, hey, it's a new Vacation or it's a new generation of Vacation, but you can take events that are inspired by another movie? Because like Clarke pointed out, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, directed by John Hughes, had moments of comedy, but also you had some real dramatic stuff in there too.
It's my second favorite John Hughes film, so I agree. Yeah, it's really a very moving film, but very funny, but also real. John Candy has some of the greatest acting moments he's ever had in his career in that movie, and it's really powerful. And I love that they've cast these two actresses because I haven't seen Chastain in too many comedies. There are comedic moments in The Help and other things, but Octavia does a lot of comedy, so it's going to be nice to see their chemistry. And Showalter, I wasn't always the biggest fan of him as an actor. Like The Baxter, I wasn't a big fan of that film, but Hello, My Name is Doris. What he did with Sally Field in that film was incredible, and no one went to see that film. It was really good. And then The Big Sick is one of my favorite films of the film last year. Just what an incredibly new way to approach a romantic comedy, and done so well and with the right touch and with the right combination. So this makes me excited. And any road trip movies always have me like half in the can for them because I enjoy them. As long as it's not Hot Pursuit, that I'm good to go on this thing, and I want to see what happens.
I
and
wanted
I think
Hot Pursuit to be better.
me too. I brought 3 people to that film thinking it was going to be good, and
Spicy Larry, baby.
I had to buy them lunch.
Spicy Lucy.
But this,
Yeah,
this
Spicy Larry.
Spicy Larry.
this
Spicy
idea
Lucy,
of,
something else.
of doing the concept and then going from there, I think I like that. Rather than naming it the same name, take the concept, kind of adjust it a little bit, and boom.
Jessica Chastain co-wrote the script
Yeah.
with Kelly Carmichael and Peter Chiarelli. Jon Schnepp, what do you think about this project?
I love that she co-wrote the script. She's an incredible actress, and just getting him to direct that. For me, like hearing about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles being remade, I love that movie. I just watched it again a couple months ago, and it still holds up. It's very emotional for being a comedy, and I hope that they maintain that. And yeah, they're moving it from Thanksgiving to Christmas, but there's still going to be that sad moment. I don't know if they're going to flip the characters and make Jessica Chastain be the John Candy character. Probably not, but you know. I'm looking forward to it, and casting a great director to Helm makes total sense. Like I said, I love Stella. I love everything he's done. Maybe not The Baxter. I didn't see it, but you're telling me not to see it now, Rocha?
Well, see it as you wish. I don't.
Remember when he was Doug on The State? Hey man, I'm Doug. I'm out of
The
here.
State.
It's really good. You guys should check it out. I always thought like the market being an adult was getting a Diners Club card, like what they have in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Is Diners Club still a thing, or is that?
I don't know.
No?
I don't think so.
I know the Players Club is. Hey-oh. All right.
Wow. What a transition into Superfly. There's a trailer for Superfly.
Great transition.
That movie is being reinvigorated for a new generation. They're taking the events from the original that were set in Harlem, transferring the location to Atlanta for a new generation. Sony Pictures is releasing it. The teaser shows an update in the action. It is directed by Director X, who's done a ton of great work in the realm of music video as well as feature film. The movie is in theaters on June 15th, and Trevor Jackson is the star of this movie, although it also has a number of different performances from people like Jason Mitchell is in this. So there's a great cast here, Rocha.
Yeah.
And as somebody who was alive when the first Superfly was released, how do you feel about this one?
Well, this is an interesting take because we just talked about taking a concept of a film and making a different approach to it. First of all, they took away the gap. It's Superfly, one word. The original Superfly. Gordon Parks Jr. did a really great job with that original blaxploitation film, and it talks about more than just. It's not just a film about a guy who's trying to do one last cocaine deal to get out. Like, it's a social commentary, in which a lot of blaxploitation films were. If you look behind the surface or beyond the surface, what I like about this though, it doesn't look like a cheesy knockoff. This looks like some real attention to detail was done. And it looks badass. It could be, for lack of a better term, a black Scarface, which makes me excited. I like this idea of Michael Kenneth Williams being in it. Jennifer Morrison is in it. She's not even in the trailer or not even listed, but she is first on the IMDb list. So I want to see what Jennifer's going to do in this movie. So there's a lot here. Plus, it's set in Atlanta instead of Harlem, so you get to explore Atlanta a bit more. The trailer here gives like a minute intro before the trailer starts of all these musical artists talking about the Atlanta music scene. Right. So there's going to be more of that, So to me, that excites me about the film. I hope it's good. I want it to be good. And the guy who wrote this wrote the first script for Crow. He was a co-writer on the Watchmen film and did the writing on the Black Freighter animated thing that they did as a side film as well. So to me, this excites me that a lot of people involved in this. And Director X's music videos are incredible. So this combo speaks well of the film.
Yeah, and if you check out the trailer on YouTube, I recommend watching the version that you and I were checked out, because it gives like a minute of like kind of like behind the scenes documentary style into the reasoning why this movie takes place in Atlanta, because it is now a cultural epicenter. Clarke, you are from Atlanta. What do you think of this trailer?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. So I am from Atlanta, and my parents live in the city proper. I went to Georgia State, downtown Atlanta, and what's amazing is that the city is still so divided. There is a huge racial divide in Atlanta still to this day, and this is a type of story that I was not personally exposed to, even living in the city, even as an adult, and so I actually think this is really interesting and important because when you know that, for instance, there's so many people that are going down to the city for production. Marvel basically has taken over the Pinewood Studios down there. They shoot everything down there. Like there's two Atlantas in a way, and so the music. But to speak to the legacy of the music scene, that's something that is growing up. I mean, we always heard about like Usher and TLC and all of these different artists, musical artists, R&B artists, and hip hop artists coming out of Atlanta proper. So I'm really curious about this, and I want to see more. And it's funny because a lot of the exteriors that they showed, like going through the city, even in the beginning, like that. My parents live not too far from there. Like we drive through there on our way to and from the airport, or to and from some great restaurants downtown or in the city. So I recognized it. I recognized a lot of it, and so I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Jon Schnepp, Superfly.
Snooka. You know what?
Not in the movie.
The thing that I'm most excited about is the take on the directing. I like his music videos. Director X, real name unknown. I was born Director X. Whatever his name is, I like the way he approaches movie making. I mean, with these music videos, they are little mini movies, and the way that they said every single camera angle, every single edit, every single frame, that's part of the new way of making film, not just the music trap or any of these things, but they're like taking it on a different, like, to me, that's what I want to see. I want to see some kind of transformation in cinema, in film. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen with this, but that's what they're promising me, so I better see it. Now, I don't know. I mean, that's what my walk away was like, we were talking about earlier, like Scarface, this and that's boring to me. I don't care. Put your face in a giant thing of cocaine. Well, who cares? But I'm more interested in the transformation of the storytelling, so I want to see that.
The movie, once again, comes out this year, June 15th. I want to remind you guys, at the end of the show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. And a lot of times I see like the same tweet that somebody's trying to get through like weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I see your tweet. I just think maybe let's try to spice it up on your end. It'll make for better conversation right here at the desk. But I love all the support you guys give us each and every day, both in Twitter, comment section, and on YouTube after the fact. We want to remind you guys as well, Spielberg movies, our top 10. That's our new list, and number 10 has dropped. It is up on our channel right now, so check out the 10th best Spielberg movie of all time, as decided by a poll here at Collider Video. Also, later on today, Jon Schnepp hosts an all-new episode of Collider Heroes. What's on tap?
Oh, we're going to talk about Spider-Man as an Avenger? No, we're not. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. WonderCon happened this weekend. What happened there? Tune into Heroes and find out.
Did y'all go to WonderCon?
Yeah. Had a booth there, son. Yeah, it was awesome.
I moderated the Lost in Space panel for Netflix.
Really?
Yeah.
Clarke, I heard. Did you see the first episode?
I sure did.
I heard. I didn't even know you were moderating. Somebody was like, "I saw the first episode. It was amazing."
Yeah, it's really fun. And my friend Neil Marshall, from The Descent and Game of Thrones and Hannibal and all that, he directed the pilot, and it's really cool.
Great.
And the family, the actors. I think that the pilot is just like a great introduction to what's to come. But the series, I am under the impression, and I purposely did not watch more because I didn't want to spoil anything. But I'm under the impression that the series changes a lot throughout those first 10 episodes. So I think we're going to get into some gnarly but still fun adventure territory.
Well, yeah, they got the Lost in Space, Batman, Ninja. They had a lot of different, Suicide Squad, the new animated film. A lot of different things were premiering there, none of which I saw because I had a booth. Thanks for coming by my booth 121. But we're going to talk about that and a lot more.
I was doing a little thing this weekend called sleeping, and it was fantastic. And we have Collider Video on Instagram. Make sure you guys check out our new show. Caption this. There's going to be some pictures they put up. Leave a caption. Make it as inventive, original, creative, funny as possible. And maybe our host, Copster and Cody, yes, that Copster and that Cody, can get it onto the show. We're going to move on to your Twitter questions. Bob Gray is going to kick us off here. And he says, what movie soundtrack do you think is underrated and goes unnoticed? For him, he recently listened to it and loved every track.
Good.
Every 27 years is a standout. What are some of your picks? Jon Schnepp, an underrated soundtrack.
Underrated. Battle Beyond the Stars. I believe that's James Horner. So look it up, man.
Battle Beyond the Stars?
Yeah.
What year did that come out?
It's 1979.
Okay.
78. Yeah.
Any stars that we would know in that movie?
John Boy from the Waltons.
Richard Thomas.
Richard Thomas. We had John Saxon.
John Saxon.
Yeah, that's right, from Nightmare on Elm Street and many other amazing films. Sybil Danning. Look her up, baby.
Ooh, Sybil Danning.
There's a whole bunch of people. I mean, don't put me on the spot. We're talking about soundtracks.
All
Move
right.
on.
So the bar's been set at Battle Beyond the Stars, Clarke.
Well, my go-to is, by the way, great call with the It soundtrack. It is excellent, and you're right. It doesn't get noticed because it's not a superhero movie, I guess, but or an Oscar contender. But it's such a great score. So for me, you guys are gonna make fun of me, and that's fine. But I own my choice. The Labyrinth soundtrack. So everybody always, Labyrinth has music by David Bowie, right? That he actually performs. But the Trevor Jones stuff that is actually the score in the background is just really like magical and peaceful, but also beautiful and intense. It's a cool fantasy score that's not like Tangerine Dream. You know what I mean? Like it's really cool. So Labyrinth is mine.
All right, John Rocha. Underrated soundtrack.
So I have two, because this is really funny, because I was actually going to tweet about this over the weekend. I'm a really big fan of the Jerry Maguire soundtrack, and no one talks about it enough. And there's some great work from Nancy Wilson on that soundtrack. They use a nice alternate take of A Pocket Full of Rainbows from Elvis.
You got the Secret Garden by Springsteen.
Of course,
in there.
that's a standard. But also Bob Dylan has a nice song on that soundtrack as well. So there's a number of really nice songs through the whole film that kind of get you in the mood for that film. And the other one is Phenomenon, the John Travolta film. I really love the score for that film. I don't know if it's James Newton Howard. And also a 1980s film called Promised Land with Kiefer Sutherland and Tracy Pollan and Jason Gedrick and Meg Ryan. Has incredible music from James Newton Howard that is impossible to find. It's only available on LP or a random cassette in a used cassette store. It is one of the most incredible pieces of music through the whole film that I will ever listen to, and you get a Los Lobos track in there as well.
All right, I got to chuck in a couple more.
All right,
You got
fine.
Howard Shore. I'm not talking about his Lord of the Rings stuff. Go deep into the Cronenberg universe, son. Videodrome, Existence, Howard Shore, and then, of course, the shirt I'm wearing, John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
Almost every single one of his films, he does the soundtrack to with Alan's Hoseworth, I think his name is. Incredible soundtracks. They live. Just check out any of his soundtracks or get his compilation album out now at all record stores. I'm just pimping him.
Did you say Alan Holdsworth?
I think his name is Alan.
There's a great guitar player, very
I'm gonna
underrated,
look it up.
named Alan Holdsworth.
No,
And
it's-
speaking of rock music, there's this guy, Eddie Wilson, in the 60s. His car went over a bridge. Nobody knew if he survived or not. The first Eddie and the Cruisers movie explores Eddie Wilson and the legacy of Season in Hell.
Yes.
What happens when that album comes out? Then Eddie and the Cruisers 2, Eddie lives. Oh my God, he survived. He was hiding out under the name Joe West, and then he came back. Both soundtracks are really great. It's kind of like Diet Bruce Springsteen. So if you love Springsteen, but he just sings, he's just a little too gruff for you, check out John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. We move on to Ava. She's going to close us out here today. In honor of Steven Spielberg's top 10 movies of all time, what do you guys think is the worst Steven Spielberg
Ooh, the
movie of
worst.
all time? I'm going to go ahead and cast my vote right now for 1941. John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd. You get two comedy superstars together. The Blues Brothers, this was not. It was a misfire, and sorry, Stevie.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. 1941. I know a lot of people bash The Terminal. I like The Terminal. 1941 is terrible, followed closely by AI.
No,
Damn.
That ending of
not
AI is horrible.
AI, very, very odd movie for Spielberg to make. I mean, that was Kubrick's baby, and then Stanley Kubrick passed away
Yep.
right after Eyes Wide Shut, and so it kind of Spielberg taking on the legacy of that, if you will. So we got AI, we have 1941. Clarke, you got another one for us?
I don't think that I haven't seen 1941, so I'm thinking about movies that like are not good. Has Spielberg made, aside from that, like a movie that is not good or I don't know.
Just look. I mean,
Go ahead.
I'll throw out a couple, man. I think Steven Spielberg's an amazing, incredible director. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time, but some of them are not my favorite of all time, and I never want to see them again. I don't want to see Always again. I don't want to see The Terminal again. I don't want to see a couple of the more recent ones, like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Stink.
Oh,
that
yeah,
movie was horrible,
that's
and you could
the
tell that he
answer.
wasn't into it. When I was watching the film, I was like, wow, I'm looking at these giant set pieces that they spent a lot of money on, and I could tell he didn't care. Like, I'm just watching, like, you just set up the camera and let that one take happen, and they walk through those rocks, and you didn't, I could tell, I felt robotic. And so when he's not invested, I feel like you could tell, and there's a bunch of his movies where he might not have been fully invested, or maybe he's going through some stuff, or he's rocking on trying to get to that next, I don't know, but it's like there's a bunch of films. I wouldn't even put 1941 into the stinker pile or AI, because AI has an incredible like middle section with Rogue City and all these amazing things. So for me, like I look at the overall film, and those are the ones that I think suck.
What about Warhorse? You guys ever?
I'm a fan of Warhorse. I like Joey.
I don't like Bridge of Spies.
Ooh.
I don't
You don't like it?
I don't like it. I think it Bridge of boring.
I think it was a missed opportunity, and I could not believe it was nominated for Best Picture of the Year.
Yeah,
I thought that was Mark Rylance was great in it, but I did not understand why that movie. If Spielberg had not had his name on that movie, there's no chance in hell
no
that movie gets
nominations.
nominated.
And I'll go one further. I'll even say like certain films get nominated because of that. No, it's Spielberg. And it's like, I feel like The Post was also, to me, very underwhelming, like Bridge of Spies. And like, look, let's be honest, today at the end of movie talk, you know what I'm saying? It's like, look, it was an okay film. Was it like Oscar-worthy?
It drove
Hell
me
no.
insane.
Other films that were Oscar-worthy, like Hostels or The Florida Project,
Yes.
were completely forgot about.
Logan.
And then you have this... Or even Logan, but you have this kind of middle of the road film that gets everybody sucking up to it because of all the actors and the director.
Can we, real fast before we go, give a plug for an underrated Spielberg movie that you should go watch?
I would love that.
I mean, this is not revolutionary, what I'm going to say, but go watch Munich. Munich is way better and so cool of a departure for him because it's kind of a mean movie.
It's badass.
Yeah, and
It's a badass film.
Everybody's so good in it, and I think it kind of flies under the radar.
We were talking about that a couple weeks ago. That's his last great film, I think. I mean, in these aughts, that's his last great
Personally,
film.
I thought The Post was great, and I think Ready Player One, because I've seen it, is it's pretty damn.
There you
great.
go. You saw it. I can't wait for Ready
His
Player
problem
One.
is how he ends his films. That's the thing that's been driving me nuts over the
gotta
last
stick the
20 years.
landing.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has trouble sticking that landing. It's an incredible performance. I'm about to hold the 10, and then the landing comes and it's a 9.5, and it drives me insane. Because the same thing with Munich. Munich is fantastic, and then you have a random sex scene. What's that doing in there? It makes no sense. Zero.
When
And
John
so
Rocha is
that's
complaining
kind of
about
stuff.
sex scene, it was out of place. Well, you heard it from the panel here. We all agree the worst Spielberg movie of all time. They agree with me. It's Hook. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Collider Movie Talk. For John Rocha, Jon Schnepp, and classy Clarke Wolfe, I am merely Mark Ellis. We will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 9 a.m. PST, for another episode of Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.